Who knew that taking a Furret onto the legendary battle spot would actually have some success? This trainer here, Lewis, he was a bit of a fool. He let me set up too much, and I was a bit of a fool because I should have realized that he would be using subs on his Cresselia. But looking at the Steelix, I figured it would be Mega. That's a really slow Pokemon, and Cresselia would have to set up Trick Room as support. I go for a Reflect on Executor. I think I later switched that out for Light Screen. Aromatisse, Gyro Ball, Critical Hit, barely anything. Charm from Aromatisse lowers Steelix's attack. I'm getting even more secure. And yes, I have sped this video up. It's a really long setup before we actually get to the battle. Well, Steelix, he wants to do more damage on that Gyro Ball. He wants to be slower and have higher attack. There's where I messed up. I should have used Leech Seed onto Cresselia first. I decided to counter Trick Room, make Cresselia stall a turn. Aromatisse has leftovers, the Cresselia has leftovers, Executor surviving with Leech Seed, and I switch Executor out for the Furret. Frisk reveals what I already know, and Cresselia decides to go offensive with that Psychic. Aromatic Mist. This is the only reliable way I have with my current moveset to get raised special defense on Furret. Pardon me. So Furret's now gaining special defense. And Furret's also being healed thanks to Steelix's Leech Seed. I get in my coil, so that's +1 of special defense, attack, and accuracy. I decided to charm the Steelix again, keep its Gyro Ball down for the Furret, but he's doing nothing on a super effective stab hit onto the Aromatisse instead. Trick Room comes back out again. I'm not too worried. I've got my charms in. I've got a coil. I got Reflect still, I believe, so I'm not taking much. Steelix is trying to counteract each charm with one curse rather than two. He's getting physically defensive, but not much. There's a second Aromatic Mist and Coil. I now have +8. Yeah, +8 to all those stats. I guess Cresselia was expecting a counter Trick Room, so she Trick Roomed the Trick Room. Leftovers healing. Leech Seed healing. This is probably the big reason why my battle takes so long. I get in another coil, +11, and Aromatisse has the Psych up. This was kind of as a safety net. And yes, I'm not running any offensive moves on the Aromatisse. I just did that for leftovers. And also with the ability Aromatisse has, you can't taunt it or torment it. It's a pretty safe setup. I believe Furret's now at +11. It has one less Aromatic Mist. Make that +12 now. And I get in my double teams. So that's 3 defense, 3 physical, 3 coils, 3 Aromatic Mists, and a double team. Healing all around. Furret is still at full health, and Steelix realizes what's going on, switches out to the Drapion. If that is a toxic Drapion, it will bypass that double team, make that double teams now. The accuracy is now 3/5 or 60%. But again, toxic will completely bypass that. If he was smart enough to bring that move onto his Drapion. This was when I was still running the Citrus Berry rather than the Chesto Berry. I swapped that out for later battles. And unfortunately, most later battles, the opponents rage quit. They didn't want to deal with a Furret. They didn't want to admit that they wanted to lost to a Furret. So they just gave up. I got 2 out of, I think it was 8 recordings in that actually managed to get all the way to the attacker of the team. I'm still getting special defense thanks to Aromatisse. I'm still gaining evasion. And Cresselia is still doing nothing. I'm basically just doing setup until I can get Executor back in, because Executor has the final piece to this puzzle. Lots of evasion, lots of defense, lots of special defense. No simple. I couldn't run simple Aromatic Mist unless I wanted to use Smeargle, and Smeargle was not quite as effective as Aromatisse. I got tired of doing setup, so I manually switched an Executor. Got lots of evasion, lots of defenses, lots of offense. Psychic onto Executor, Psychic on Psychic, not much. My Lotic had the Toxic, but since it's not a poison type, it's not guaranteed to bypass my evasion. There's my skill swap. Reveals nothing I don't already know. Again, Frisk can be helpful, but in this case it wasn't. Ice Beam comes out onto Executor. I survived the crit, lucky. And I get off a Leech Seed. Burn plus Leech Seed, it's going to do a lot. And it's going to heal Groudon when he comes in. That's going to be really helpful. Ice Beam again. Executor goes down. And looks like I switch into the attacker. Right when the Twisted Dimensions return to normal. Here's Groudon. It's the Primal Groudon. If you guys remember that skill swap earlier, sorry if I didn't narrate it as well. Furret has Harvest. This Groudon, I think I gave it Eruption, made it mixed. Well, my Lotic is faster and gets the Toxic on. This is what made me realize I needed to go for a rest set rather than a Fling Citrus set. Not to mention that since Furret was slower, and except under Trick Room, the Citrus would not apply to the Eruption. It would apply after, which wasn't as helpful. And there's the Harvest. I can heal up Groudon all I want. I can heal myself up all I want, but I can't do both in the same turn. Drapion comes back in. And Groudon... Oh, I did have rest on the Groudon. Yeah, this is really where I realized I should run the Citrus Berry instead. I think that, yep, I just wanted to say, good luck hitting us with all these psyched up stats. And I ran rest. So that's 2 free turns where I am PP stalling literally, and Louis didn't want to handle it and forfeited instead. Up next is, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that DT, so do you mind if I just call him Quan, like Taekwondo? Well, Quan wants to challenge his team now, and he was the only guy nice enough to let me get this video. Salamence attack drops. I was expecting the Mega Metagross. I should have been smarter and Trick Roomed instead. Well, Metagross, it has the Bullet Punch. That's super effective. That's stab, but it doesn't quite get the boost. And then Headbutt on the Salamence. I was fully expecting a flying type double edge onto Executor. That was really bad. Executor, it has to switch out. I need to get my Furret in. Frisk reveals a weakness policy. If I want to take out that Metagross, I should probably one-shot it. This time, Aromatisse charms the correct target, and Dragon Claw, less than 40 damage. Tapu Koko is switched in, which would be a real killer on this strat. Aromatic Mist comes through. Coil comes through. The setup has begun. Yeah, the reason why Tapu Koko is a killer is because this is where I used Chesto Berry, and both my Pokemon are grounded. Executor switched back in. He has the harvest. I skill swap it on immediately. He's not giving me as much free setup as the previous person. I go for a double team. I wanted to get evasive because if he managed to land hits, I need to wait for the terrain to wear off. I need the evasion. Back in comes the Salamence. He's lost his Intimidate. Here's a Bullet Punch. 30 damage. I use Leech Seed. I want to get that Metagross out due to the weakness policy. Double team again. 60 accuracy now. Furret gets lucky there. Trick Room has ended. I could be in trouble. He apparently does not have a flying type attack or normal type attack at all. Getting my third double team. Half accuracy. Trick Room is back in. And Executor is healing off the Metagross for 15 health. That's really nice. Tapu Koko is switched back in again. I Leech Seed the Salamence. Double team again. I really, really want to survive the electric terrain, which ended up almost costing me right there. I'm at 8 health. Any hit, and I'm done. This strategy's done. I realized that and switching the Groudon immediately. But luckily, Trick Room is up, and the terrain has ended. There's one thing I can do to save this. Bring in the Groudon quickly. And use Rest. I believe I'm at 3 evasion, which is 3/6 or 1/2. Half accuracy on both of the opponents. The chance that both of them will miss is 1/4. There's my Chesto Berry. And I have Harvest now, so I can use it again. And in comes a Garchomp. That could be an Earthquake. That's bad. Zen Headbutt from the Salamence again. I heal most of that back up. And I haven't even used Psych Up yet. Furret. I'd go for another double team. I really probably should have gone for Coil. And I Psych it up. He has now less than half accuracy on both my Pokemon. Salamence and Furret avoid. Here's a super effective Garchomp Earthquake onto Groudon, and I'm only at 1 coil, remember that. Salamence uses Bulldoze. I don't really mind being slow. These are tanky Pokemon, even though Furret doesn't really look like a tank. Furret speed drop, I don't really care. They're evasive. If they do get hit, I can rest Chesto it back up. I wonder, I forgot if I showed the fling on this one. He switches in the Tapu Koko. I can't use my rest strat, so I need to take him out at 1 go. And here I get in my coils now. A Rock Slide. That's enough that with 1 coil, it's beyond perfectly accurate. Not much damage. Again, I'm only at +1, and I IV'd both of them to be tanks. Tapu Koko has the leftovers. Trick Room's ended. They'll be faster. Furret avoids the Volt Switch, so Tapu Koko stays in and is the only one hit by the Earthquake there. Too bad for you, Tapu Koko. And since you're off the field, my spread moves are guaranteed to hit only Garchomp, and therefore take a little more damage to him. Enough that I can get the 1-shot. Well, technically 2-shot, but finish him off with it. Another coil comes in. My attack, defense, and accuracy are raised again. Metagross is switched back in. He is defeated by setup using 3 Pokemon that are not really respected. And he goes for the forfeit. A Metagross and a Salamence forfeit in front of a Furret.